welcome to Connecting Clarkston. Welcome back, everyone. Today is a fun day. We're having episode 16 with Christi Brown. And she's not only a friend, but she's a businesswoman. She's an inspiring Instagram influencer. She's a tennis player. She's a golf player.
How would you describe yourself? Is that the wording you would use?
She's aggressively positive.
Aggressively friendly.
Aggressively friendly.
Okay.
All these things. Am I missing anything? A very good hugger. What else?
Yeah, good hugger is probably the best way to describe me. Tackle hugger.
Tackle
whatever.
hugger.
Yeah, whatever else.
Thank you for coming to talk with us.
Thanks.
I know it was a little bit of a last minute invite, and so this feels right.
Yes.
That we're sitting here.
Can we tell the story of how
chit-chatting.
she ended up here?
Well, yes, like we could start with that.
Yeah.
So we were talking to you about your husband and his family
Yeah.
and Waterfall Jewelers,
Yeah.
and we want to get to like how that's all connected to Clarkston and all that. And then I was Katie and I were talking, and I was like, oh, well, Christi's married to Andy Brown, whose family owns Waterfall Jeweler and all this stuff. But Christi has her own Instagram and her own TikTok and all of this, and she does this really inspirational stuff. Her podcast is amazing. And I'm sitting here talking all about Christi, and Katie's like, well, why are we not having Christi on? I'm like, yeah.
Well, she's like, well, we have to go to her
super
house
smart.
because you have to see her studio.
Yeah, I did.
And then she's going to tell us, like, we can pick her brain on how we
Right.
should be doing things because we don't actually know anything.
Nothing,
And
no things.
So we had a whole lot of things we wanted you to do, and then it only made sense that instead of your husband, you just come. So
Which
here we are.
We'll get to Andy.
Yeah.
We'll get to him later.
For
Yeah.
sure,
Totally,
because
yeah.
he's awesome too.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were like, of course you should come on, so thank you.
I appreciate it. I
being
think
here.
I need you to stand in my room every morning and tell me that, like, that was the biggest hype speech I've ever heard. I'm like, yeah, and I'm friendly, and I'm a hugger, and I love people, like, and I'm, who was that person on? Was it Mad TV or SNL? Where he goes, Stuart.
Oh, Stuart Smalley.
Stuart, yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
I'm good enough, I'm smart enough,
Right.
I'm doggone it, people like me.
Gosh darn it, people like me. Like, that's just all I think of when I hear that. I'm
Oh,
like,
that's
yeah.
so funny.
Exactly. So this is how it all.
Here we
But
are.
Yeah, we'll get back to Waterfall Jeweler and all that. But can you let's back up and how are you connected to Clarkston? Because I know you went to Holly schools, but
Yeah.
you know, right next door.
Yeah.
But now you're living here.
Yeah.
How'd you get here? How'd
Yes.
you find your way here?
I know, right? So my husband and I, we've lived in White Lake, we've lived in Davisburg.
How did you guys meet?
Oh, he was best friends with my neighbor.
Okay.
He was not my type. He was way pretty boy, preppy, and I was like, no, I need guys that like motorcycles and blah, 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 and that never works out, right? So clearly we came back from college and we went to a party at my neighbor's house, his best friend's house, and all of a sudden we kind of hit it off and things just sparked, and we never were apart after that. So it was kind of just like, all right, it was meant to be type of thing. So yeah, it was. He's such a good guy. If you know any of the Brown family, like the Strong family, they're just the nicest people in the world. So I mean, yeah, they're just good people.
And he grew up in Clarkston.
Yeah,
right?
he grew up in Clarkston like his entire life, and his dad grew up in Clarkston area here, like his mom, like everybody, they're like natives.
Yeah,
natives.
They are locals.
Yeah.
Because we were at their house one time, and it was for Kevin's birthday, and all sorts of shenanigans going on. But found out through chit-chatting that my youngest brother played football with her husband at Lakes.
Yep.
And Andy used to drop Matt off after practice at home.
Yeah,
He was
so
like his
funny.
ride home. I'm like, oh, look at these connections.
I know.
It's
Yeah.
so fun. Yeah.
It is. It's like everybody in that 6 degrees of separation, whatever they call it. I mean, that's so true.
Yeah.
Oh,
Everybody
for
knows
sure.
somebody, and you're like, wait, you're related to that
I feel like
person?
in Clarkston it's 2 degrees.
Oh yeah, yeah. It might,
Like,
you're right.
it's not the Kevin Bacon. It's like
2 degrees.
It is. It's a little, we're not saying inbred, but we're just saying very.
no.
what's the Ian Bushrow, Ian Bruick, 2 degrees of separation.
I mean,
Okay.
it could be. There's a lot of us. Well, we're glad you did make it back here, and
Yeah.
now you guys are settled, and your kids are going to Lakes also.
Yeah, our kids go to Lakes. I was a public school kid. I loved public school. So we were kind of like, I don't know, what do we do? And he's like, just let's, go to Lakes. And I swear they put the best teachers up front, because then you're just like,
Yeah.
we can't ever leave. Like, these people are
Yeah.
amazing, So yeah, now we live, right in Clarkston. We live right by Pine Knob. So we can say that now. It's Pine Knob. It's not DTE
Of
anymore,
course,
right?
of
Yeah.
course.
So yeah, we're real close.
You guys are locals, and so obviously I know some of the things that you guys are involved in. You talked about. I mean, we play tennis together, and you golf and all this stuff. I know your family owns the waterfall, but do they also have a part ownership in the golf course as well?
Yeah, Fountains.
Okay, I thought so. I just wasn't sure. Is it with
Yeah.
the same group?
Yeah, so it's different people. It's Andy's uncle Rick. So Tom Brown. Everybody knows Tom Brown, right? His brother Rick, and then it's also Tom, and then Al Kuhn, and then Jim Schmidt. Yep.
So, sorry.
yeah.
I
No, you're
talked to
good.
Al Kuhn, and he's supposed to get me a Fountains mug.
Oh,
For a
I will get on
collection.
him about
yes,
that. I will get on him
maybe
about
was supposed to
that.
call him back,
Yeah.
but yeah, if you could do that,
Yeah.
that'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Okay,
Absolutely. I
so
love
there's
Elsa.
how many owners at the Fountains?
There's 4.
Four,
now.
okay.
Yep. Yeah, 4. Yep. But Al became he's just one of the best people ever.
Yes.
Al is. If you've ever talked to Al, if anybody knows Al from Fountains, you're like, oh yeah, he's just
Yeah.
the best person ever. So
Al is great.
yeah,
Nice.
he's a sweetheart.
So how did you get to starting your own podcast?
I know this is crazy.
Let's
so
talk.
Okay, wait 1 second.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
What did you go to college for? What and where?
yeah, I went to Northwood University. I actually played 1 year of tennis up there.
Did you?
I was on the exhibition team. They're a Division II school, so
Okay.
they are like, I was one of 2 Americans that went there. They were from like Colombia, Germany, all that. It was
Wow.
amazing. They were really good players. So I did not play much, but I went there for marketing and management, fashion marketing and management. I thought I wanted to be, I liked textiles, and I always sewed when I was in high school. Like I went to a couple of, got into some scholarships, made some dresses, things like that, did all their fashion show stuff up there, and realized that I hated it, despised it, because I'm not a huge fashion industry person. Like I could never live in a place like New York, whatever. I love my small town. This is it right here for me. Don't ever ask me to leave. But so then I wanted to make like Kevlar. I love textiles. I love the science of it. So I wanted to go into making like the fireproof suits for like race car drivers, things like that. But again, to do that, you'd have to live in Chicago or LA or that. And I was like, oh, no, I'm good. So I just kind of dug into the marketing management side of that. So yeah, after that, I worked in retail for forever, and then started working at Waterfall Jewelers, and that's where I was for a while. Worked at LaFontaine, the dealership, for a little bit too. Don't we all have like careers like
Right.
galore, right, throughout our
Yeah.
lives? And then once COVID hit, I was like, I had started a bodybuilding career. I've always been an active person. I love lifting, I love playing tennis, I love golfing, I love all that stuff, but started bodybuilding, and then thought I wanted to go down that kind of nutrition industry, got real in with like macros and stuff like that, and just found out everything under the sun about it, got my nutrition license, certification, and when we had 2 in diapers, and when I was working at Waterfall. So life was crazy, and I was doing all that, and then all of a sudden I'm like, I want to start my own business. And then COVID hit.
Wait, so when did you start doing the bodybuilding thing? That was during
That
COVID?
was
or-
2015 is when I
it's
started bodybuilding. Yep.
Pre-COVID.
Mhm,
Oh, okay.
pre-COVID, yep.
How long were you
So,
doing that?
Yeah, I did that for about 4 or 5 years.
And, like,
I'd say.
competitions
Yep,
and all that?
mhm,
Wow.
things like that. But
Wow.
this is kind of how my business started, right? Because out of the depths of doom and gloom come, the random flower that you're like, okay, if we hadn't have gone down this really
Yeah.
terrible road, like,
Right.
I had a very bad turn in the world of bodybuilding. I became like obsessed with keeping that lean body, and if anybody's ever done it or knew somebody that did it, the day of the show, you're dehydrated, you're just like flat, you have no food, no water in your body. I mean, they have a thing called like we're drying out, where you actually are supposed to dry your body out to make your veins pop, and yeah. So everybody who has like all these pins like body goals on their Pinterest boards, and I see people up on stage, I'm like, no, that's not real,
Right.
You get that body for one day,
Right.
and that's it.
Because you were saying before, like we were talking about this before, how
Yeah.
long do you have to taper the water off? Like this is for like a week before or
Yeah, they
something
call
crazy.
it peak week. Yep. And usually they'll up your water intake before, so you're drinking like a gallon a day, whenever you start prepping for it, and then they take it up to 2 gallons a day, and then you have like no water, like sips, like barely drinking anything. So, yeah. But
That's
I mean,
intense.
that whole thing kind of led me to where I am today, because I got into eating disorders, and I got into just becoming obsessed with, I can't eat that. What'd you put on it? Like, look at the waiter. Did you put oil on this? I can tell you did. You know, there's oil on my broccoli, and I cannot eat it. You know, and just my husband just like, where did my wife go? Like, we can't go out to drink anymore. We can't, like, we'd go out, you know, to dinner, and he'd be like, are you gonna eat? And I'm like, no, I had my tuna in the car. Like, I brought my food with me everywhere. It was just very obsessive and very bad. And then kind of realizing that even if people aren't in that deep of a place, we all still kind of have this like chronic dieting, especially as women, even men too now, but just we all think we have to look a certain way and we need to fix our bodies. Everything's bad. So that's what led me down to this road.
How did you like break away? How did you say, okay, I'm done with that. I'm gonna do something different?
You always have those moments in life where you're just like, if something doesn't change, I'm gonna die, or like
lose my mind.
Things are not things are not gonna be good. So I started up with bulimia. I mean, throwing up after I ate, because it was like, well, if I'm gonna eat this and go out with my friends and have pizza and beer, I can't say no. So I've got to go out and do that. So I'd like go purge later on wherever it was, you know. So that alone was like high intensity, or like anxiety over where do I go, where do I go? And then all of a sudden, the straw that broke the camel's back was when my oldest, now he's 7, but he was 2 years old at the time, I think around that, maybe like a little bit younger. And I ate too much, because your body just at that point, it goes into a biological like need to find food, right? When you're hungry, you're just like, I gotta find food. So I ate, and then you don't stop. It's kind of like, I explain it like this. Do you guys remember the toilet paper pandemic of 2020? When there was no toilet paper to be found, right? I remember going to the store, and I'm like, oh my gosh, magically there's toilet paper on the shelves. And even though I had some at home, I'm like, I have to buy it because I don't know when I'm gonna get it again. That's the same thing how we feel with binge eating and with food, right? If we say we can't have it, all we're gonna do is want it. It's that scarcity factor. If I can't have it, I want it more. So I overate, and I binge ate, and so I went into just screw it mode. I'm like, shoot, this tire's flat, might as well slash all the other 3 tires, because now I can just eat the stale graham crackers, get everything out of the you know, might as well eat it now, so, you know, diet starts again on Monday type thing. And then realizing, okay, well, now I need to purge, because this is not good. So I went into the bathroom, and this like brings a tear to my eye, because I just think about this, and I just hear this little knock on the door. Mommy, are you okay? Like just as I'm, you know, it was just, it was one of those moments in your life when you're like, something's not right. Like, this isn't okay anymore. Like, my teeth were chipping, my hair was kind of falling out, but I looked great. Like, everybody, wow, Christi, you look fantastic. Like, I was 40 pounds less. I mean, pure muscle, just everything. I mean, but that's why I kept doing it, because I looked great. I was super healthy looking on the outside, but I was so unhealthy on the inside. Like, crazy unhealtly. So that kind of was that moment where I'm like, this isn't good.
I think it's interesting that kids, a lot of times, I think, bring you to that point. I know I had a very similar experience with my son. I was smoking, and we were like walking down the sidewalk, and he picked up a cigarette butt off the ground and was like, oh, here, Mom. I'm like, okay, well, we're getting like too old, and I'm gonna need to stop this, because
it's terrifying.
And you're like, I don't want to set this bad example for you. So
oh man. So how was then the transition, that because then you started getting into coaching, right? Like helping other people kind of you know, get through and transition.
Well, realizing that even if people weren't at the level that I was at, that there's so many. When I started just opening up my story, it started my business, because people were like, oh my gosh, I feel the same way. But with just dieting, just how many people have been on Weight Watchers, done macro counting over and over and over, keto, they've tried intermittent fasting, they've done so much. And like, we are smart women, we are smart people, you know, but the fact that we let this take over our lives to the point to where we do the dumbest stuff for it, like taking those stupid like laxative pills, or I remember doing that, or even going on crash diets before we go on vacation and then just binge again. Like, it's this cycle that we keep going into because we think we have to, and it's what, you know, we call diet culture. It's like just the look of health, you know, when really, and you and I know so many people that are healthy. They're, you know, we just all have different bodies. It's like, even if you put every single person on the same diet, we would all still look different. Like that's just what it is. It's genetics. It's our lifestyles factor into it. Everything factors into it. So kind of making that transition was so hard because I had to gain weight to heal my relationship with food. I mean, that was the only way to do it. And so you think you're doing everything wrong because you're like, well, I'm gaining weight, but I feel better. Like my hair isn't falling out anymore. My teeth aren't chipping. Like I don't feel dehydrated. My arms aren't hurting anymore. You know, I don't feel cold all the time. Like, wow, it's 90 degrees out and I don't have to wear a sweater. Like all these things. And, you know, I come from a family, I come from a Hispanic heritage, so I'm not a small person by any means. Like I have hips, I have a butt, I have, you know, I'm not meant to be stick thin, but also gaining weight, it just, no matter what you do, it makes you feel like you're bad. You're not doing something right. So that, changing that mindset was probably the hardest thing to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. So what is it that then people, like, how did you do it? I mean, obviously you're in such a great place. Like, how do you do it?
I cried every day.
Did you?
I cried every day in the mirror. I'm like, would this taste so good? But, you know, and as you're bringing out, I mean, I remember Anne bringing out my maternity clothes and being like, these don't fit anymore. Like, even these are too tight. And I'm just crying. But in the end, I think you walk through your biggest fear. I tell my clients, it's like immersing yourself in your tank of snakes, right? You walk through the biggest fear and you're like, oh, this is rubber. Like, this isn't real. Like, this is a hologram. This isn't real at all. So walking into my biggest fear of going back into the gym, of gaining weight every time, because people at the gym, they talk. And I remember, you know, when you have your earbuds in and the song is like ending and another song starting and there's that kind of lull. I heard two people talking about me. There was a guy and a girl, and then the girl goes, she's gained a lot of weight. And the guy goes, I don't know, I kind of like her better that way. And then she goes, I don't. I think she looks way too heavy. And so in my head, I'm like, like, what do I do? What do I do? And then I'm like, Christi, it's like the biggest like aha moment I had was, it's okay if they don't understand you. They don't need to. Like, you understand what you're doing. You know that this is the healthiest thing for you right now. And right now, your husband didn't leave you. You know, they didn't kick you out of the grocery store. Your kids still love you. Your friends still love you. Nothing's changed except for your body. And I mean, gaining weight was healthy for me, but now it's like I found that balance of, it's really helped me understand that, like, I am who I am, and if you don't like me, that's okay. That's the hardest thing to do when you're conditioned not to.
Don't you think a lot of that too comes with age and experience?
Oh my gosh.
You know, I feel like, I think we've talked about this, like the older you get, you're just like, who cares?
The less you care about those things.
About like other people's opinions, and everybody's got an opinion. I mean,
well, and also you're still doing the things you love, and you're able to do that in the healthy body. That must feel really good, right? Like,
and I always wanted to play tennis. I took 15 years off from college till like 2 years ago when I started playing again. And I never played tennis because it would have messed up my lifting schedule. And I didn't have the energy. That was the hardest part, is I was like, you're gonna have so much more energy when you work out. Well, I never did because I knew how to deficit myself. So, and when you're in a deficit for that long, you just mess up your metabolism, you mess up everything. And it was always more. You know, I always want more. And it's never good enough. Like, it's never, even when I was like stick thin, it wasn't good enough. It wasn't good enough. So that whole change was just terrifying. But there's an easier way to go through it. Like, I found out, like, walking your way through it.
And that's what you help your clients do.
And not even with gain. I have some clients that lose weight because they're not binging anymore. They're not overeating anymore. You know, it's that just ending dieting, like being healthy without dieting. So getting back to the things that you love. I don't lift as much anymore, but I play tennis, and I wouldn't change that for the world right now. Like, I have so much fun. Meeting the girls at Deer Lake are my favorite people in the world.
It is a fun group.
They're the best. They're the best. Best women ever. And I wouldn't change that for the world right now.
Well, and I was listening to some of your, I've seen some of your Instagrams and some of your TikToks and podcasts and stuff, and obviously you're very positive, and that's really fun. But I think what's interesting too is, like, you talk a lot about that your people's relationship with food. Like, that's what you're talking about, and that's what the main crux of it is, right? Like, you actually have a relationship with food, which maybe sounds weird to some people, but it really is.
Well, I got laughed at when people would say that. But you have a relationship with money. You have a relationship with food. You have a relationship with your partner, your kids. You have a relationship with everybody you meet.
Yeah.
So how would you describe that relationship? Mine with food was toxic. It was, I would cheat on it all the time, like it's truthfully, I'm such a person to where I'm a visual person, but I like to learn by like examples and putting it into different terms. Like I'm always like, talk to me like I'm a 5-year-old, because like that's how I learn best. So when I relate things like that, it's like, yeah, your body's, it's a container. It's like a Tupperware container, right? Your body is a vessel. You got to take care of it. You can't just take that lasagna out and just toss it, the container back into the drawer. Like you're gonna clean it. You have to clean it. You don't want it to get gross. You want to take care of it.
Right.
That's the same with our bodies. And just kind of realizing things like that it's the stuff inside that we really want. Like we want the lasagna that's inside. We want the leftovers that are inside. We don't want to bedazzle our Tupperware and to the point to where we can't use it and we can't wash it anymore, right? We want to make sure that it's something that we can use, but we also take care of. So it's kind of treating your body, sometimes it is, hey, you haven't moved in a couple days. Like now self-care means getting up and going for a walk or getting up and doing something. And that's self-care sometimes. It's not always sunshine and rainbows, but yeah.
So like when you decided you had to be healthy for yourself, and then how did you start the business? Like you just turned on a camera and started doing videos, or like how did that move forward?
Katie, isn't it the scariest thing? Like the first time you guys walked in here, were you like, oh my gosh, what do we do?
I think we just honestly were like, we're just not gonna think about it.
No,
it's so ridiculous. What are we thinking?
What are we doing?
And luckily, I started my TikTok journey and everything during COVID, which is when it kind of, flew and everything, which was great. But I think the biggest thing was I just did it. I didn't think about it like, how do I look? Or at first you're like, oh my gosh, is my hair okay? Is this and that? And now I'll go on with makeup on. I'll just like whatever. It's one of those things to where I feel like, especially now, the more real you are, people draw into that more.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, I'm a big Brene Brown fan. I don't know about you guys, but in one of her books, I think it was Daring Greatly, she says, we love to see the vulnerability in other people, but we hate to see it in ourselves. And so I'm like, people want to see the cellulite on your legs to be like, oh my gosh, you're just like me.
Right.
Like we all have it.
Yeah.
I don't care who you are, when you sit down, your skin's gonna fold over. Like it's
Right.
it's just gonna happen. So why not normalize that stuff?
Well, I mean, I feel like we've talked about that a lot. We're like, should we do anything? Oh, forget it. Like, who cares?
show
Let's not
up.
even worry about it.
Well, I think like
It's
what you're
just-
saying
it
is
is
that
what it
the
is.
vulnerability piece from Brene Brown.
Why do I always think it was Breen?
It's got a tilde.
The little-
I don't know how else to say it, but in
little accent,
What is
Yeah.
that? A teal day?
A tilde is like when you
Gosh.
put it the accente. That's what goes over the letter.
Okay,
that
so
means you
say it
sound
again.
up. Brene.
Brene.
She,
okay.
I think
Like
she's
Renee with
very
a
good.
B.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think she has a lot of wisdom. But she's saying be real, because if you're setting up this expectation that, this filtered version of me, well, that's not realistic, and so be real so other people can accept their cellulite and they're not perfect everything, and it just, everyone is happier and everyone is like living a little bit more fulfilled life to be like, we're all here doing our best and we're showing up and you're doing the things you want to do because you're not waiting till it's perfect. Like with the podcast, like we were kind of talking about, like you're not waiting till it's perfect, you're just showing up. We didn't certainly wait till it's
That's a
perfect.
horribly weird story to add in, and I think I've told you this before about how I was like in that women's Bible study, and we were talking about welcoming people into your home, and they were saying like, it's fine if your house is messy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, my house is like extra messy. Like somehow my family can't hit the toilet. Like,
Do you have voice?
Yes.
That's why. Yes.
and they're like, no, like honestly, people were saying, I like going into somebody's house that's like on the messier side. They're like, I feel better about myself. Like walking into your like beautiful, sparkly house makes me feel like, what am I doing wrong? And so I feel like with podcasts, with anything, yes, to see the like unfiltered natural self.
One of my business coaches once told me, she said, putting something out that's B- is way better than putting something out A+ that never got released.
Yeah.
And to me, I was like, yes.
That's
Because think
good.
about it.
Yeah.
I mean, even from when I started my TikTok, which was in 2020, and now it's over 200,000 plus. But like at that point in time, there's still, I cannot use the same tactics I learned a year ago because it's changed. Like the algorithm, everything's changing so much, and now even with putting out content, it's about storytelling. People want to hear stories. They want to hear about your experience with that and how you got through that and what you felt when you did that. But in a couple of months, it's going to be something different. So it's like, why be perfect? Because it's going to change by the time you figure it out. And a lot of times I figured out I would stall myself. Well, let me get another certification. Maybe I should get this certification because it almost postpones it. Because then you're like, well, I can't start until I'm this or until I have this. Clearly the nutrition certification was a big deal, but I'm like, should I become a dietitian? Should I go back to school? And should I go into psychology? Because my husband calls me a food psychologist. So it's just like, what do I do? Maybe I should do that. And then it's like, no, Christi, you have everything you need right now, like starting the podcast. I had no clue how to do it, but I'm like, Google knows everything, right? Like we'll figure it out. And I spent the whole day on GarageBand being like, I don't know, what's this button do? How do I get this off here? Like Googling things, but you figure it out and you just do.
Well, and it seems like you have a background in marketing from college too, so I'm sure that's kind of nice to be able to use some of that, as you get your business going.
But man, things are way different from when I graduated from college. Like Facebook had just come out. It was only, you had to have a .edu in your email to be on Facebook back then.
So wait, you did TikTok was your first, this is where you started?
Instagram, I started with Instagram and I made my personal profile, I changed it over because I was about ready to get rid of, I'm not a social media person much because I don't know, I feel like it was just time consuming and I don't know, but now that I have my business, that's literally where I find everybody. Like that's how we connect and you do it for free. I mean, that's the best thing about it. That's free advertising right there. So
even with the marketing background and I think just cleaning people's teeth that are coming out of school with marketing, I mean, I think it's valuable, but I also feel like how you're saying in like a few months, what you're doing now will not work then. True. It's such a fast moving that I think you have to be like in the thick of it and keeping up that way.
Yeah, it's a perfect way to put it.
Yeah.
To be in, it's like with kids.
Yes.
You don't know, gosh, the first time you become a parent, you're like, you are gonna let me come home with this thing? Like, are you serious? This is legal. This is legal. Like, no, you have to come with me. We have a bed. Just come on, you get your own room. Like, I didn't know what to do, but you figure it out. And what works for me may not work for you or for you guys, because lifestyles are different, parents are different. I mean, it's just different. It is. So, I mean, everybody's journey is so different in how you communicate to people. I mean, everybody, you have that thing that you're good at and you want to capitalize on that. You want to be consistent, but you also want to be able to adapt and shift and pivot.
And I think too, we've talked, I don't want to say it's getting flooded, but right, it's like everybody's popping up everywhere with all of this content.
Oh yeah.
And so, I mean, I think being ahead of that curve probably really helps you. The fact that you're.
It did.
Oh my gosh,
It honestly, it was one of those things where I'm like, should I be on TikTok? And then I'm like, you know what? I wish I would have gotten the Instagram bandwagon a little earlier. And the thing is, and again, my business coaches were like the best people ever because they were so down to earth and they were very much so like relationship based. Like you don't just want to have 1 billion followers. You want to have loyal. They'd rather have
Engaged.
1,000 loyal followers than
like real, not
exactly,
for,
not bots and everything like that.
Right.
But man, if you can just tell your story and open up like that and have people just engaged with what you're doing, like that, good posts will thrive. Like your content, if it's good, it will thrive. It will go. But you have to keep pumping stuff out, like in good stuff, not just like, oh, I'm gonna post this about my toenails or something. It is. And this is the way of the world.
It's got to be valuable. It's got to be giving some sort of value.
Yeah.
And I think that's what, even just listening to like a couple of your podcasts and a couple things, just knowing you were coming on, like each thing, I was like, oh, that's a good idea. You were talking about how. Hopefully you can figure out what I'm trying to say here, but you were saying like there's 4 different kinds of hunger.
Oh yeah.
One is taste hunger, and you were talking about the big cookie that you keep in your refrigerator every week, and then just take like a bite of it, just for the taste.
Yeah.
I'm like, gosh, that's a great idea. I need a big cookie in my fridge.
Beyond Juicery in Clarkston has my favorite. I don't know where they get it from, but it's this giant cookie. Or Panera. I wish we had a Panera in here, but oh my gosh, it's my favorite, and then you get that taste, So
what are the other
perfect.
3? I didn't look at this. I didn't see this one.
So biological hunger is the when you wake up in the morning, you're like, all right, I need to eat.
Yeah.
I physically need to eat. You can feel that hunger. Then there's practical hunger, which is I'm gonna eat now because I have to drive to Detroit for a tennis match, and I know I'm not gonna get to eat again for another 4 hours, and I'm gonna be pretty much playing tennis for 2 hours, right? So I'm gonna eat now.
Now or never.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I'm not starving later on. There's emotional hunger, which, as much as people want to say like don't eat out of emotions, sometimes that's what you got to do. Like, I always think emotional hunger is okay, but it shouldn't be like the only way to get through something. Sometimes you do, and then you realize it, and you're like, all right, good, I'm good. So emotional hunger, eating out of emotional hunger has a big umbrella. Eating out of boredom, eating out of habit. A lot of times it's where you sit, like your environment.
Interesting, yeah.
You're probably at night when you go home, you sit in the same spot, you put your drink somewhere, you have your phone, and then you have your bag of chips or something. Like, once
Right.
you sit in that spot, you might just automatically be hungry because that's habit. But I always have a snack when I sit here, that type
Right.
of thing.
Yeah.
And then there's emotional hunger, obviously, like eating out of sadness
Stress,
or
yeah.
a feeling that you're trying to suppress, right? Like, what am I hoping this food is going to fix? I always ask myself, like, am I hoping it'll help me become less lonely or give me something to do? So a lot of
Yeah.
times as moms, we're like, I feel like I always need to be doing something. So when we sit down, we feel guilty. So what do? We keep our minds busy by eating. So a lot of times it's just an oral fixation too.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, and then there's the taste hunger, which is what you were talking about. And taste hunger is always, you just need a bite or two. It's kind of like when I have like my salmon and rice and asparagus dinner. Andy makes it. He cooks. I don't cook. I hate cooking.
Oh, that's
don't put me in the
funny.
kitchen. I do dishes. He cooks. He's an amazing cook. But I could eat probably 5 plates of that, and I could still want something after. I'm not hungry,
Right, that's
but I
sweet
need
or
that
something.
sweetness.
Yeah.
I need that, like, to round it out. That's why people, when they eat only clean, they'll just eat and eat and eat and eat. But why am I still hungry? You're not really hungry. You just need
Different
something else.
taste.
You need something
Okay.
sweet or something different.
Huh. Was it always named Intuitively Strong? Was this the name you started with when you began?
Yeah, so my first name back when I was macro counting, and I was I just had my second son between Tommy and Jack, probably around 2016, 2017. I was bodybuilding mama. Oh, that name alone, I'm just like, ooh, cringe. But I helped women get their bodies back after pregnancy and realizing, oh my gosh, nobody can stick to these plans for longer than 3 months. Or what do they do when they go out? Like, you have to live in a bubble if you don't follow your macro plans or do this or do that. So, and not even I could sustain it. You know what I mean? It was just kind of like, this isn't working, you know,
Yeah.
not even I can do it. So I wasn't practicing what I was preaching. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm doing fine. Why can't you do it? You know,
Yeah.
that type of thing. So then I was like, oh, something's wrong.
So then did you just transition then to intuitive? You're like,
Yeah.
popped up one day, you're like,
I know, I was like,
plot
guys.
twist, this is not working.
I started opening up my story because I'm like, gosh, what's the best? Honestly, this was in my head. I'm like, what's the easiest way I could punch myself in the face, which is what what's her name? Mel Robbins calls it, punching yourself in the face, right?
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm going to tell you I've gained weight before you even talk to me because I know I see it on your face. So I know I haven't. I'm going to get back on the diet on Monday. I know you think I'm fat. Like, trust me, I've gained weight. Whatever. I'm going to say it before you do, punching yourself in the face, right?
Okay.
So I was like, what's the best way to punch myself in the face right now? As I know I'm going to gain weight. And by the way, I thought I was going to gain 5-10 pounds. I gained 40. But I needed it. Like, my body is sustainable here. This is just where my happy medium's at right now. And so I just started slowly talking. I've been having trouble. Like, I constantly was thinking about food. I couldn't stop thinking about food. All I wanted to do was eat. When I was at a party, like, and if you'd have invited me over to a party, Christmas party, whatever it is, I would be at the dessert table. Like, I would literally lick frosting off of like plates in the trash can. Like, I would go dumpster diving. Like, if my mom made something and I'm like, hold on, I gotta scan the can of beans in there because I need to put it on my Fitness Pal because I don't know if you use the beans with sodium, that's gonna change everything. I need low sodium. Like, it was crazy. It was nuts.
Yeah. So
So I was that kind of person, and now having the freedom to eat whatever I wanted, I was like, whoa, I'm gonna go crazy, right?
Yeah.
So, and then obviously, once you have pizza 3 days in a row, you're like, last thing I want is pizza. So it goes away, but then again, like, your body starts to balance itself out, like getting away from both the extremes.
Yeah.
So finding that gray.
Yeah, one that as the name suggests, like intuitively, like you're eating when you need to eat. I mean, isn't that kind of like you're starting to learn what your body actually needs?
So it's about honoring your hunger, respecting your fullness, right? It's about basically, I could eat more, but I know it's not going to make me feel good after. Or I know that we're going out on the dance floor. Like if we're at a wedding, that would be events. Going out, eating out at restaurants would be binge time for me. It'd be like automatic. All right, time to binge. Like here you go, because eat whatever you want because it's a
special occasion, right?
Cheat day, that type of thing. Which is why I don't do cheat days anymore, because I want to eat the same as I do on Monday as I do on a Sunday. I want to eat the same as I do on vacation as I would at home.
So there's no food that's not allowed, right?
Food is just food.
Food's just food.
Like honestly, it's down to the point to where even with my clients, I have this thing called a hunger spectrum, to where it's numbers 1 through 10. And this is how I didn't know what hungry or full felt like, because it was always eat by the clock. In 3 hours, eat this meal. In 2 hours, eat this meal. And that's what you eat, and that's all you get. So if you're hungry, it doesn't matter. If somebody else brought in donuts, it doesn't matter. You're not eating it. Like I would bring in my giant pack of food for the day at work. So on 1 to 10, it's like 1 to 2 is like, I'm so hungry, I could eat my arm off, right? And then 9 to 10 is like, I'm so full, I can't breathe. We've all been there, right? We've all been to both ends, neither of them feel good.
Right.
So I was always constantly stuck between those two ends. So now if you think about 5 as like, I could or couldn't eat. At a 4, I'm gonna start thinking about food. This is when I'm gonna start being like, I need to just start preparing myself to eat. At a 3 is when I'm gonna start going to get the food. I'm gonna start preparing it. I'm gonna start Uber Eatsing it in, whatever it is, right? And then at that point, maybe I'm gonna eat, and then I eat till a 6. A 6 is like, I could probably eat a little more. Maybe we're having dinner soon in an hour or 2, so I'm gonna stop at a 6. Maybe I'll stop at a 7 if I know that we're not having dinner for like another 3 hours, whatever it is. So you kind of start to gauge where you're at on the hunger scale, and just kind of realize that, hey, I know that you just brought in those donuts, they smell really good. I can have one if I want, like nothing's off limits, but I can have it now, I can have it later, I could have half of it. Like I no longer have that, I have to eat it all now, give me the whole box, or sneaking back in and out. Like I was secret eating. I was sneaking food all the time too, so.
Well, I mean, I feel like this is a really common thing with not just women, with men too. But I'm curious, obviously you have a ton of followers, which is amazing and happy for you. Is it mostly here? Is it international? Like where are your people coming from?
Yeah, they're from all over the world. I've been so just grateful to meet the coolest people. I swear this is why, just be yourself, because I attract the coolest people because I think they're super cool, because we're just quirky. I swear all my clients and the people that reach out to me, they're in this struggle bus. They're in pain, they're hurting, but they have this like humor about them. And I think it's amazing. They're just like me, and that's, I think, why we relate so well together. And how many people are like, oh, well, between you, this person, and the other person who were all in the same business, she's like, I went with you because you're just so likable. But I think they're likable. I'm just like, man, I want to be best friends with you. Like, I have some of their numbers. I've met up with some of them, but they're from all over the world. I've had clients from Australia, England. I've had tons of clients from the US. I've had, they're from all over the place. But that's the best part about social media. Social media, oh, it's the worst. This is the worst thing to happen to us. Get used to it. Like this is going to be life. This is your new life right now. So to me, my social media feed, it's all programmed. I got rid of everybody who made me feel less than, or that I was like, oh man, I'm jealous of her, blah, blah, blah. And that's how I started it. And now it's just, my feed is all stuff that feeds me positive, but like reinforcing stuff that's like, it's okay if you're having a bad day. You're human. Like, welcome to the human race. If you're depressed, if you're this, if you're that, it's like.
If people want to connect with you, where are the best places? How do they find you?
Yeah, so Instagram DMs are probably where I can relate to people the most, because I can talk, I can like press, and you know me, and I'll just go, and it's me, like that's the one thing, these bots now, the AI chats and things, which are huge right now, huge. And I'm still that person. I'm creating my own content. I might have like some people edit it every now and then, but like I want to be that person that's real. I want to be the person behind the screen. I don't have other people doing it for me. I have a virtual assistant, but she doesn't do stuff like that. I want to be the one that's behind it, because to me, like that's that's who I am. I don't know.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want that done to me. So.
Well, it's a very personal journey too, so it has to be personally I feel like, you're selling or not selling, but I mean, yes.
Yeah.
But it's a personal connection, and it's a very
Yeah.
personal health, blah, blah, so, yeah.
Something I was going to mention that I feel like we should start asking, and sorry, you're victim number one here.
Yes.
I feel like the last few guests that we've had have like told us their goal, like very kind of big goals that I'm like, oh, that's so brave that you just said that out loud. Do you have any like upcoming goals?
My BHAG, my big, hairy, audacious goal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you tell us?
Yeah.
Can you say that again? What is it?
BHAG. You never heard of that? Yeah, your big, hairy, audacious goal.
And that's what we'll ask people to tell us.
What's your
their
BHAG?
BHAG.
Yeah. And just look at them like that, and
Oh
don't
my
say
gosh.
anything else.
Hold on 1 second before you tell us your BHAG. Do you play Wordle?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Is that one of the words?
Do you remember how in one episode I'm like,
You
what's
did.
your Wordle word?
That was
Because I
another question
saw
Katie
where,
thought we should ask everybody. And we asked them and they're like, what's Wordle?
Martha Stewart, like that's what she asked her podcast
That's
guest. I'm
right.
like, we should do that. And so I'm like, oh, what's your Wordle word? They're like, I don't play Wordle.
Yeah, but BHAG, everyone should have a BHAG.
Okay, so
Everyone
first
should have a
Wordle
BHAG.
word.
What's your first?
What's your Wordle word?
Like the word that I got the first time.
That you
No,
always
that you
start
always
with.
start
Oh,
with.
learn.
Learn.
Oh, is it?
Learn.
Oh, E-A.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
that's
like
a great
that
one.
one.
Okay, now your
What do you
BHAG.
start with? Now I'm curious. What do I need to do?
I use train a lot.
Ooh, train.
I feel like I skip all over. I wasn't prepared for this to be flipped.
Oh. So the BHAG tables have turned.
Oh my gosh.
That's right.
Okay.
We'll get back to you on that. What's the
This is about
BHAG?
you, not me.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
So I have to be completely honest with you. I have been a go-getter for my entire life. Like, I never knew this, but my parents said when I was younger, I had this bracelet and it said perfect, kind of like John's, like with his daughter's name. Mine said perfect because my brother, if you know him, he is like, you think I'm outgoing? He is, we call him the governor. He is just like, everybody loves him. He's so likable. He's like the best person in the world. So I grew up with him, who has the best personality. He's so funny. And to me, I always felt like I had to be good at something else because that's where my need for perfectionism came from. Like, to me, that's how I felt I was loved, even though I had the best parents in the world. My parents, you've met them before, Ann. They're the most amazing people ever. I had, my childhood was fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm very grateful for that. But even in tennis, in whatever I did, I had to be the best at it because to me, that's how I got love. And that's honestly what everything comes down to is we all want to be loved, like 100%. I believe that in my heart and soul. So my perfectionism has led me to be so perfect in every way. And if I'm going to do it, I'm going to go hard and I'm going to do it the best that I can and I'm going to go. And I have to say right now, this is why I feel like I'm at such a good place in my life because for the first time ever, I'm living my best life. Like, I am living my dreams. And I know there's a part of me inside that's like, but you should want more, and you should want this, and you should go for this, and you need to go for that. And I'm like, something inside me is like, I love where I'm at. It doesn't mean that I don't want to improve, that I don't want to become a better tennis player, that I don't want to make my business grow into an empire, which eventually that'd be like my, my pride and joy. But also, I feel like at that point in time too, I'm like, I love how connected I can be with my people right now. And that's what I love where I'm at right now because I'm such a people person that I want to know everything about you. I want to hear about you. I want to hear about your story. I want to hear about your past dieting history. I want to hear about how you grew up. I want to hear about all this because I think it's all like kind of how we all are. We are the reason like why we are the way we are. So I'm going to say that my BHAG is that I want to be this version of myself, but like a 10.0 version in 10 years. Like I want to be where I'm at. Like I'm
Still
so
very
happy.
content,
I'm
but
so content. I'm so at peace, like with my body, with my life, with everything, with my kids. And again, it doesn't mean I don't want more, but I'm at such a good place right now that I couldn't tell you. Yeah, I want to maintain this.
Well, that is an audacious goal, though, to be content. Like, I think that's a really hard thing to do for a lot of people, to be like, oh, I'm good right now.
And I think it's a good message, too.
It is a good message,
I do think, like, there's great parts of having a BHAG and, like, these huge goals.
Yeah.
But I feel like how many people can say that they're, like, content and at peace
Yeah.
and like want to stay here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very few people. So
Yeah.
that's awesome.
Thanks. Yeah, it's different because there's a part of me that's like, you're giving up on yourself. Like that's crazy. You're-
No.
like I'm 36 years old. I'm like, you should be one. You're like not even there yet. Like you need to work harder. You need to have struggle. You need to like do this and do that. And I'm like, maybe just not now. Like maybe I
Yeah.
just want to like maintain
Just
right
enjoy.
now. I'm
Just
good.
enjoy
Yeah,
this.
I'm enjoying all the hard work I put in. Like
Yeah.
working. Gosh, 12 hours a day, staying up until midnight.
Yeah.
Like I remember going to the gym at 4:30 a.m., getting the boys ready. We had 2 in diapers at the time, going to work at Waterfall. Then I would come home before Andy, because he had to close down the store. And I would do dinner. By the time he came home, you know, we'd have baths. And at that time, you're, you know, chasing toddlers and 2 dogs
Yeah.
and things like that. And I'd, after dinner, we'd do bath, bedtime, and I'd go in my office and work and study and till midnight. And Andy would come into the office and be like, you need to go to bed. It's 1 a.m. Like,
Yeah.
and I'd wake up at 4:30 and do it all over again. Like I put in my time, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah.
But I think at this point, like this is everything I've dreamed of right now. Like, so I'm good coasting here for a little bit because I almost want to revel in it a little bit.
Absolutely.
Like maybe I'm just gaining energy before that next BHAG pops into my head. But yeah.
Amazing.
That's amazing. I think a lot of people could, you know, live their day-to-day a lot happier if they took a minute to say, oh, well, this is okay where I'm at.
Yeah.
I'm feeling good.
Yeah.
Embrace the contentedness.
Yeah.
And that's really
Doesn't
neat.
mean you don't want more. It doesn't mean that life is you know, there's
Right.
I'm pretty sure I had like a breakdown and cried the other day, hormones and whatever. But I'm like, oh, it's whatever, no big deal. I'm a human. It's gonna happen from time to time. Like,
Well, and obviously what you're doing is working. You've got all these followers. You've got a pretty robust, you know, following in
Yeah.
all of your social media
Yeah.
platforms.
just
and-
helping people. That's like
Yeah.
my.
Yeah.
If one person comes back and they're like, your message stuck to me. Like I did this one post. One guy was like, you have crazy eyes in here, and I'm like, yes. But I was just like, your body is not a trash can. Like you do not need to finish that last
Yeah.
bite if you truly don't want it. And like I went off on it, and
Yeah.
half of it was people like, well, you could. I'm like, you could either throw it away or you throw it away in the trash can, or you throw it away in your stomach. But I'm like, either way. And people are like, you can save food. I got lit up by like
geez.
people saying, well, you are so ungrateful. You have so much food, and half people don't have food. And I'm like, you get some tough skin being on social media. The
Oh,
things
for
I've been
sure.
called and like that, I'm like,
my God.
now it just rolls off. I'm like, but
Yeah.
it does. The first time, I'm like, oh my gosh, this person thinks this about me and that.
Oh,
but
geez.
yeah, it's crazy.
That's
But
tough. So the real question is, how do you give people hugs that are virtual clients? Is that so hard for you?
And you have no
Do
idea.
you want to just reach through the camera
you
and be
know-
like, come to me?
how many times I've high kicked in my yes, because of my chair
see
it
it.
rolls out and I've like high kicked, or I just like get up and I just do party hands or something, because I call it cuddle aggression, because do you know the girl on Despicable Me when she goes, it's so fluffy?
Yes.
Do you
Oh my
remember that?
gosh. Kennedy does
Yes,
that.
yes. I don't know if this is a real term, but I swear this is what happens. It's because your brain, we talk about the extremes, right? It goes to one extreme, your body is always looking for homeostasis. It's always trying to balance itself out. So what does it do? It's kind of like the color hue, the color wheel. If you go to one color, the exact opposite color is on the other side. So on the side of cuddle and just, oh my gosh, I love it. It's so cute. It's so adorable, is aggression. So that's why people call me aggressively friendly, because it's like, I just will hug you so hard, I'll pick you up. And I just like, that's what it is. Your body's trying to balance itself out with a, yeah.
Oh
So.
my gosh, that's
Isn't
great.
that funny?
Well, you're for sure going to have to come back, and
Anytime.
probably on one of our lives.
I think so. A little
Yeah.
drinky poo.
Yes.
A little drinky poo.
No, stop. No.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, this has been great.
I do have to say, you guys
Yeah.
are amazing. Anne told me about this, like when she's like, we're thinking about starting this up, and I'm like, I swear, this is how like emotional it gets, but the fact that you guys do something so scary, you know how many people talk about this? We're just gonna start this up and do that. You've not only started it, but you're consistent with it. Every time I ask Anne, you guys are just going higher and higher and better, and everything that you're doing, like, I wish more people would take the plunge out of the bubble, out of the safety,
Yeah.
and just do it, because looks so comfortable to you guys right now, and you just look
you.
like you're
That is so
living your
nice.
best lives. And I just wish more people would do what you guys do. And it's truly, it is so inspiring. It is awe-inspiring. So you guys
Well,
are,
thank
you
you.
yourselves are changing lives. It's amazing.
I mean, I
you.
think a lot of what you said, just even with like go out and do it. Don't worry about making it perfect.
You're
Nothing
gonna
about
mess up.
this has
You're
been
gonna mess
perfect.
I mean, what's the
Yeah.
worst? We kind of have said, what's the worst that can happen too? I mean,
And even with the age thing, we're like, oh, forget about it. You know, like we're not getting any younger.
yeah.
Do it now. Yeah.
Whatever.
The NLU
So-
podcast, there's a group of 3 friends that started this podcast, started talking about golf. No laying up. Andy
Oh,
listens
yeah.
to it all the time in the morning. And they're huge now, sponsored by the PGA. Like they get all the guys, all because 3 friends just started talking about golf. And that's what people want. They just want to hear about their community. They want to hear about this.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
it's awesome.
We like it too. And
We do. We're having fun.
yeah,
Well,
the
and it helps-
sponsorship thing we would like to come into play at some point.
At some point, we'll get there.
Yeah,
but
that's
we've met.
great.
Well, I mean, obviously, I knew you,
Yeah.
but we've met and had the opportunity to talk to all these awesome people, and
Best
it's like,
part.
there's no downside.
nothing
to
It's just
lose.
so great.
No.
Our motto. Should we tell our official motto?
Yeah.
I mean, we can't really say it 100% on our
Yeah.
high school situation here, but it's why the blank not.
Yeah.
Like that's our whole motto. Like
I love it.
why not?
Yeah.
Just
You
try
guys,
it.
you've seen Schitt's Creek, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna have that, like we're gonna have Clarkston,
exactly.
but it's gonna say why the blank not at the bottom. Like,
Yeah.
and it's just gonna be the Clarkston connection.
Yeah.
Why the blank not? That's all I think of. Maybe a different picture than Schitt's Creek. Then
Maybe, but I also like them too. We'll bring them in. Get
Right?
Eugene Levy. Oh God.
oh, the eyebrows.
That's it. That's where we're going next. That's our BHAG.
Oh,
Get
Eugene Levy
in
is your
here.
BHAG. Yes.
There we go.
Done.
We've said it. Oh my gosh.
Now we have to manifest it.
I know.
That's so funny.
Well, okay, so we've taken up a ton of your time and we have to start wrapping up. But just before we go, is there someone you'd recommend that we have on next? Someone in the community that you could think would be a fantastic guest? One or
It
two?
can be your
or-
husband.
Well,
but
we already are getting
Oh,
him.
that guy.
He's
Yeah,
already coming
yeah.
in.
You're like, no.
Yeah.
He's on our list. He's coming in.
I love it. I love it. So I'm not gonna lie. I think since we brought up his name, Mr. Al Kuhn, we might have to like drug
he would
him
be
to get here.
great.
That's okay.
But
We're
once he
yeah.
does, but
fans of
he
that.
is just, and everybody knows Al, and everybody
Yeah.
loves like fountains and couples golf at fountains
Yeah.
and
Oh my
on
Gosh.
Fridays. They're like
you can't
the
even
best
get
things
in
ever.
anymore.
I know.
It's
It
insane.
sells
We
out
used
in
to
a
do it all the
day.
time, and we haven't been able to go the last 2 years.
Well, now you know somebody,
know,
and now you can be
yes.
like, hey, Elsa,
yeah.
Would he come on? Should we combine him with Andy and
You
Joe?
could if you. That
Would-
might make him feel a little
was
better.
Oh,
But
yeah,
Al,
let's do that.
he's
Little-
just a
That'd be great.
sweetheart too.
Yeah.
I mean, I give him a hug every time. Well, that
How
doesn't
weird.
surprise you. It's odd.
strange
no,
for you.
odd. But he is just he's just one of the nicest. Always
Okay.
smiling. Always like wanting to do things for you and help you out and just what you do. It's just
Yeah.
it's amazing. He's such a good guy.
Yeah,
Such a
that's
good
great
guy.
one.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
no one said him yet, so I love that. It's a new awesome dude.
I can't wink very well, but
I was
try.
like, what's
Yeah.
happening over
Am I
there?
having a seizure
Yeah,
with my eyes?
something is wrong.
Medical
We're gonna need to wrap.
SOS.
doctor.
Are you dehydrated?
Right.
Is there a doctor in the
Blink
studio?
once if you need water.
Blink once, right.
Oh, well, thanks, Christy.
Yes,
Thanks for
thank
coming
you
to
so
talk to
much.
us.
Thanks for having me on.
Sharing your story and inspiring us all.
Yes.
This podcast is brought to you by Independence Television, located inside Clarkston High School. The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of Independence Television, Independence Township, or Clarkston Community Schools.